Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me for a moment. In a world that's loud, fast, and full of distractions, being a good man isn't enough anymore. You've got to be a godly man. A godly man doesn't just chase success, he walks with purpose. He doesn't just talk about faith, he lives it when nobody's watching. A godly man stands firm when the world shakes. He keeps his word when others break theirs. He prays not because he's weak, but because he knows where his true strength comes from. When temptation whispers, just this once, he remembers every choice writes his legacy. When life hits hard, he doesn't run. He stands. He endures. He rises again. You see, being a godly man isn't about being perfect. It's about being obedient, being honest, being humble enough to say, God, I can't do this without you. It's about protecting your family, respecting your woman, guiding your children, and leading by example, not fear. A godly man knows the power of forgiveness. He knows how to apologize. He knows how to get back up after failing, because he knows his value isn't defined by the fall, but by the faith that gets him back up. So today I challenge you, stop trying to fit in. Stop lowering your standards. Start walking like a man who carries heaven's purpose in his heart. Be strong, be kind, be faithful. And above all, be a godly man. A godly man understands that purpose is greater than popularity. He knows that the applause of men fades, but the approval of God lasts forever. He doesn't live to be liked. He lives to be asterisk, right? Asterisk in the eyes of truth. Every day the world offers him a choice: chase fame or chase purpose. Popularity shouts, look at me. Purpose whispers, follow him. Popularity is a flame that burns bright and dies fast. Purpose is a fire that burns deep and endures through every storm. A godly man doesn't need to impress people. He needs to asterisk, impact people. He doesn't measure success by followers, money, or applause. He measures it by obedience, integrity, and faith. He knows the crowd changes its mind, but God never does. So when the world tells him to compromise, he stands firm. When others trade truth for comfort, he holds on to conviction. He walks the narrow path, even when it's lonely, because he knows that purpose often walks alone. He's not chasing moments, he's chasing meaning. He's not trying to fit in, he's trying to stand out for what's eternal. And even when the world mocks him, he smiles, because he's not living for this world's crown. He's living for a greater reward, a higher calling, a divine well done. A godly man follows purpose, because popularity fades, but purpose is forever. Faith in action is what separates a believer from a pretender. A godly man doesn't just talk about faith, he walks it, breathes it, and lives it every single day. He understands that faith without action is just noise. It's not enough to say he trusts God. He must show it through the choices he makes and the life he lives. When storms come, he doesn't panic, he prays. When life tests him, he doesn't give up, he grows stronger. Faith is not a Sunday ritual for him, it's a daily commitment. He brings his beliefs to work, to his home, to his relationships, to every decision he faces. He treats people with kindness, not because it's easy, but because his faith tells him to love others, even when they don't deserve it. He forgives quickly, serves humbly, and stands boldly. He believes that God's promises are true, even when his circumstances say otherwise. He doesn't need to see the whole path to take the first step that has faith in motion. He works hard, but he knows his strength comes from above. He faces fear, but he moves forward anyway. Because faith isn't a feeling, it's a choice to trust when it doesn't make sense. A godly man's life speaks louder than his words, because his actions are a reflection of his faith. He doesn't just believe in God, he lives like he does. Integrity is the backbone of a godly man. It's what defines him when no one's around to watch or applaud. He keeps his word not because it's convenient, but because it's right. When he gives a promise, he treats it as sacred. He understands that his reputation is built on consistency, not convenience. Integrity means doing the right thing even when it costs him something. It means choosing honesty when lies could make life easier. It means walking away from shortcuts that could stain his character. A godly man knows that true strength is not in power, but in principle. He doesn't cheat, even when he knows he won't get caught. He doesn't manipulate, even when it could benefit him. He stands for truth, even when standing alone. Integrity is his silent armor, unseen by the crowd, but recognized by God. It's what earns him trust from others, respect from his family, and peace within himself. He understands that the man he is in private shapes the man the world sees in public. So he guards his heart, his thoughts, his actions, knowing that integrity is not a performance, it's a lifestyle. He chooses to be real, not polished. He chooses character over comfort, truth over popularity, and faith over compromise. Because a godly man doesn't need an audience to do what's right. He only needs conviction. Inner strength is not loud, and it doesn't need attention. It's quiet, steady, and rooted deep within the soul of a godly man. His courage doesn't come from ego, pride, or the desire to prove himself. It comes from faith, the kind of faith that reminds him who holds his future, even when the present feels uncertain. He doesn't stand tall because he thinks he's invincible. He stands tall because he knows he's not alone. When fear whispers in his ear, faith speaks louder. When life knocks him down, faith helps him rise again. His strength is not built in moments of comfort, but in seasons of struggle. It's forged in prayer, refined by patience, and sustained by trust in something greater than himself. He doesn't need to show off his power. He lives with quiet confidence, because he knows real strength isn't about control, it's about surrender. Surrendering his pride, surrendering his fear, surrendering his plan to the will of God. He fights battles others can't see, and he wins them in silence. He doesn't need recognition, because his strength isn't for show, it's for purpose. Every challenge he faces becomes a testimony of faith in action. Every hardship becomes a reminder that courage grows where faith lives. A godly man stands strong, not because of who he is, but because of who he believes in. Resilience is the mark of a man who refuses to stay down. A godly man knows that falling is not failure, staying down is. Every time life knocks him to his knees, he uses that position to pray. He stands up again, not because it's easy, but because faith gives him the strength to rise. He understands that trials don't break him, they build him. Each setback shapes his spirit, sharpens his character, and deepens his trust in God. When doors close, he doesn't lose hope. He believes there's a better one waiting ahead. When people walk away, he remembers that God never will. Resilience is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about holding on when everything inside you wants to quit. It's about believing in light, even when all you see is darkness. A godly man doesn't let pain define him. He lets it refine him. He turns every failure into a lesson and every wound into wisdom. His strength is quiet but unbreakable because it's anchored in faith, not pride. He knows that God's timing is perfect, even when it feels delayed. So he waits, he endures, and he keeps moving forward. He walks through fire, but comes out purified, not burned. He's not afraid to start again because his hope never runs out. A godly man stands up after every fall, not by his own might, but by the power of faith that lives within him. Humility is the heart of a godly man. He knows he's not perfect, and he doesn't pretend to be. He understands that strength without humility turns into arrogance, but humility turns strength into wisdom. He doesn't seek to be above others. He seeks to serve others. He's not afraid to admit when he's wrong because he knows that confession is not weakness, it's growth. He understands that God is still shaping him, molding him, refining him through every season of life. When pride whispers, "You've made it," humility reminds him, "You're still learning." When success comes his way, he gives glory to God, not himself. When failure humbles him, he doesn't give up. He listens, learns, and starts again. A godly man doesn't boast about what he's done. He's grateful for what God has done through him. He doesn't demand honor. He earns it through quiet faith and steady obedience. He listens more than he speaks, and he forgives faster than he judges. He knows that humility isn't about thinking less of himself. It's about thinking of himself less. He carries himself with grace, not arrogance, and treats everyone with respect, no matter their status. He understands that God resists the proud but lifts up the humble. So he walks gently, speaks truthfully, and loves deeply. He lets God's hand shape his heart, knowing that real greatness begins with humility. Leadership by example is the kind of leadership that speaks louder than words. A godly man doesn't just tell others how to live. He shows them through his actions. He leads his family and community with love, patience, and wisdom. He knows that true leadership isn't about control, it's about influence. He doesn't demand respect, earns it through consistency and integrity. His family sees how he prays, how he forgives, and how he handles challenges, and they learn from that. He understands that the best lessons are not taught in speeches, but lived in moments of grace and strength. When his children watch him, they see what faith in action looks like. When his community observes him, they see humility wrapped in courage. He leads not by shouting commands, but by extending compassion. He lifts others up, helps them grow, and guides them toward what is right. He's not afraid to admit when he's wrong, because he knows honesty builds trust. He listens before he speaks, and seeks God's wisdom before making decisions. He protects his home with prayer, not pride, and serves those around him with a willing heart. He treats leadership as a responsibility, not a privilege. He knows that love without wisdom is weak, and wisdom without love is cold, so he walks with both. A godly man leads by example, showing that the greatest power lies in serving others faithfully. Self-control is the strength that separates a wise man from a reckless one. A godly man understands that real power is not in doing whatever he wants, but in choosing what is right. He resists temptation not because he's immune to it, but because he values his soul more than a moment of pleasure. He guards his heart, his mind, and his words, knowing that one careless choice can destroy what took years to build. He doesn't let anger rule him even when provoked. He doesn't let desire blind him even when temptation is close. He knows that discipline is not a burden, it's protection. When the world says follow your feelings, he chooses to follow his faith. He understands that feelings change, but values remain. Self-control gives him peace in chaos and clarity in confusion. It helps him walk away from conflict, even when pride says to stay and fight. It teaches him patience when life delays his plans. It helps him speak life instead of words that wound. A godly man knows that every decision, every reaction, every thought is a test of character. He chooses to master himself before trying to lead others. He doesn't live for instant gratification. He lives for eternal purpose. He knows that temptation is temporary, but regret can last a lifetime. So he stands firm, guided by faith, anchored by truth, and protected by the self-control that honors God. Forgiveness and mercy are the marks of a heart shaped by God. A godly man understands that holding on to anger only chains the soul, but forgiveness sets it free. He practices grace not just when it's easy, but when it costs him something. He forgives others, not because they always deserve it, but because he remembers how many times God has forgiven him. He knows that bitterness poisons peace, and revenge destroys joy. So he chooses mercy over judgment, love over resentment, and peace over pride. When people hurt him, he prays instead of plotting. When they misunderstand him, he stays silent instead of striking back. He knows that forgiveness is not weakness, it's strength under control. It takes more courage to let go than to get even. A godly man also learns to show mercy to himself. He understands that guilt can be a heavy chain, but grace breaks it. He doesn't live trapped by his past mistakes. He learns from them and moves forward. He accepts that perfection is impossible, but growth is always possible. He allows God's mercy to heal what shame tried to destroy. And when he shows that same mercy to others, he becomes a living example of God's love. Forgiveness gives him freedom, and mercy gives him peace. He lives each day with a gentle heart, knowing that grace received is grace meant to be given. Divine purpose is what gives a godly man direction when the world around him feels lost. He doesn't live by chance or by the shifting winds of opinion. He walks with intention, knowing that every step has meaning when guided by a higher power.
Down.
Every action he takes, every word he speaks, every choice he makes, all of it reflects a calling greater than himself. He knows he was created for more than comfort, more than success, more than survival. He was made to serve, to lead, to love, and to shine the light of truth wherever he stands. When others chase fame, he chases purpose. When others seek approval, he seeks alignment with God's will. He listens not just to the noise of the world, but but to the still, quiet voice within his spirit. That voice reminds him that purpose is not about being seen, it's about being faithful. He understands that divine purpose doesn't always lead to the easiest path, but it always leads to the right one. Even when the road is rough, he trusts that every trial has meaning. Every delay, every disappointment, every detour is shaping him for something eternal. He doesn't ask, "What do I want?" He asks, "What was I made for?" And when he lives that way, his life becomes more than a journey. It becomes a testimony. A godly man walks in purpose, knowing his steps are ordered by the one who called him. So, my brothers, hear me clearly. The world doesn't need more men who talk loud and live small. It needs men who walk humbly, stand firmly, and love deeply. Men who don't just believe in God, but asterisk become asterisk. The evidence of his work on earth. Men who rise each morning not chasing approval but walking in purpose. Men whose hearts are steady, whose hands build, and whose words heal. Because being a godly man isn't about perfection, it's about direction. It's about falling and getting back up, again and again, with faith as your foundation. It's about leading with love, serving with strength, and standing with integrity even when the crowd walks away. So wherever life takes you in your home, your work, your relationships, let your life be your message. Let your actions preach louder than your voice ever could. When your time here is done, may they say of you, he was not just a man of success, he was a man of God. Be that man. Be the light. Be a godly man.